Good morning. I'm Ted Williams, host of Sonoma County's Talking News Director. It's good to have you along as we get to know about some of the important topics of today, the things that are really affecting our lives here in Sonoma County, and the companies that can help us with that, and the individuals who can help us sort through some of the kind of nightmarish things that we have to deal with when it comes to disasters. And when we've had so many of them over the past few years, some Sonoma County residents are getting pretty used to this idea of how to get the process going, and some are not. So we're going to answer some of those questions today. Right now, I've got Steve Severaid with me. He is the Vice President and Treasurer with Greenspan Adjusters International. And Steve, thanks for spending some time with us today on Sonoma County's Talking.
Sure, I'm happy to be here and answer some questions for you.
Oh, that's good, because I know that people are already thinking they want to get back to their home, they want to see what's going on, or maybe they've just been doing that this week, and there's a big surprise in front of them. Things are not the way they used to be, and they'd like to get it back to the way it used to be, and that's where you step into this whole thing. What are some of the things that that people are going to discover, and what are some of the emotional feelings that you've seen people have when they see their property?
Yeah, well, obviously it can be a pretty devastating thing to pull around the corner and see that your house is gone, and very frustrating for sure. And what a lot of people don't fully appreciate is that what's in front of them now is really a long, arduous process with the insurance companies to make sure that they get back to where they were before this event happened. And it's not as simple as I have this much insurance, so they're just going to pay me because everything's gone. It doesn't work that way in the state of California. In some states it does, but not here in the state of California. You still have to prove your loss and demonstrate everything in order to get the money from the insurance company. So it's not as simple as I had an insurance policy for X amount of money and now the house is gone, so they're just going to pay me. And a lot of people don't appreciate and understand what's in front of them now, something they never asked for or volunteered for, but now they're in it.
I know some people are thinking right now, okay, it didn't damage my home, so I'm going to go ahead and get my insurance up to date and try to, make that coverable for all of that. But for those who now are facing the fact of got to deal with the insurance company, what's the steps that people need to start taking from the beginning to really start to make it, like you were saying, viable and provable that those were the things that were there and need to be replaced?
Sure, that's a good question. Well, the most obvious thing is you need to report your claim to the insurance company. I think everybody is pretty on track with doing that, and hopefully people have been tracking their expenses while they've been evacuated, because all those expenses that they're out spending money on that they wouldn't have had to if this fire hadn't happened are all part of putting that claim together. And people should keep all their receipts, keep track of everything they're spending, and make little notes on them, because otherwise 2 or 3 months from now you go back and you look at these nondescript receipts, you go, what the heck was that for? So it's important to make little notes on those things. And then also, when it comes to record keeping, is really an important thing that people don't understand the beginning of this, but the insurance companies will assign adjusters, and those adjusters work for the insurance companies, of course, but oftentimes those adjusters will be changed out 2, 3, sometimes 4 and 5 times during the process. So it's really important that the policyholder take notes of every conversation, send emails confirming any discussions they had with any of those representatives, because what can happen is a new adjuster comes in and you thought you were on a track and had some agreements, and there's nothing in the file, and now you're starting from square one, and people can get really, really frustrated having to tell their story from the beginning over and over again.
This is where I know that people are going to get confused, upset, emotional about it. It's like jumping on a train and it's already moving and everybody's speaking a foreign language. It's got its own language, and the forms are going to be really foreign to people when they try to start filling out things. What's the best way for them to then get started once they've kind of put that together and they start looking through the receipts and making notes and everything, and then they're going to start looking to try to actually make that claim? Does a claim adjuster then visit the property numerous times and start to put that assessment together?
Yes, they do, and I think you've made a really good point in there, and that the train is already running. The people who are coming out from the insurance company do this all the time. They know what they're doing. They're on a cycle, and unfortunately, policyholders who've never been through this, they're in a foreign land, and there's a lot happening around them. And if you don't understand all the things that are going on, it's very difficult to get up to speed quickly. And so one of the first things that people should be doing, along with the other things I mentioned, is getting a complete copy of their insurance policy, including all the forms and endorsements, a certified copy, because I'll tell you that really sort of becomes the Bible of the claim event. It doesn't matter what that claims adjuster might say to you. What matters is what's written in that insurance policy. And if you don't have that policy, and if you haven't read it and haven't tried to absorb it and understand it, you're at a real disadvantage when it comes to going through your claim and coming out the other end of this thing in the best, most positive way.
Well, I know that the hazmat teams want to get in there. They want to start clearing property as soon as possible. And what should be done before those heavy pieces of equipment come in there and start tearing everything out and moving it off to the dump?
Yeah, that's another good question. I'll tell you, first of all, you really want the insurance company to see the property, see the damage before anything gets taken away from the property. They need to be able to see it. Obviously, you want to take pictures, and videos are great, but you've got to get the insurance company out there to see the property before you start removing anything. And, that also goes for homeowners who didn't have a total loss but have some damage. You really want the insurance company to see it in its worst state so that they really appreciate and understand how tragic this thing is for the policyholder. So you definitely want to take pictures. You definitely want your insurance company to be able to put eyes on it before you start moving anything out of there.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. We're talking right now with Steve Severaid. He's a Senior Vice President and Treasurer with Greenspan Adjusters International. I'm Todd Williams on Sonoma County's Talking. And Steve, you're not actually an insurance company. You help people maximize their wildfire insurance claims, including all those in Sonoma County, but all over the place as well, different counties around the area. Tell us a little bit about the company and how it came about and what it actually does in this whole function.
Sure. So our company, Greenspan Adjusters International, was founded in 1946. We are licensed public adjusters. So there are three types of adjusters here in the state of California, Ted. The first type is a salaried employed adjuster from the insurance company. That's somebody who gets paid regularly from the insurance company to represent the insurance company's interest, which a lot of folks are going to be meeting. The second type is what's called an independent adjuster, and independent's kind of a misnomer because they're really not independent. They represent the insurance company in the claims cycle. So when people say, well, my adjuster's coming out, it's not really their adjuster, it's the insurance company's representative. So that's an independent adjuster who works for many insurance companies but never represents policyholders. And the third type of adjuster is what I am and what our company is, and that's called a public adjuster. And a public adjuster is licensed by the State Department of Insurance to represent exclusively the interests of policyholders. So just as an independent adjuster never represents you as the owner of the home, we never represent the insurance companies. So we are, in effect, a counterbalance to all the experts that the insurance companies bring to bear in this process to level the playing field for policyholders who otherwise wouldn't have any idea what to do and how to do it and how to fulfill those policy conditions in the most meaningful way and interpret the policy language in their favor.
So let me ask you just a kind of a general question here is what would make an adjustment company like yours be qualified under the auspices of authorities here to be able to help make that justification?
Well, obviously we all have to be licensed individually and collectively as a group, so we have to maintain licenses and continuing education. But further than that, a lot of people who work for our company used to work for insurance companies, were trained by them, so they really understand the inner workings. It's kind of like somebody who worked for the IRS and then becomes an advocate for people with their tax problems. We also have a lot of people who come to us who had a law degree and were working in a legal sense and decided they wanted to get more personal with their clients and roll up their sleeves and do adjusting work. And we also have ex-builders who used to be builders who help us with structural evaluation. So our talent comes from a lot of different areas and directions, but together we form a team that really understands every aspect of the claims process.
Well, a lot of the victims of the fires in recent years here in Sonoma County have found is that they were underinsured. They didn't find that out until afterwards. Is there ways for you to help find other sources for people to make up the difference on those insurance claims? Well,
some of the unfortunate news is that there are people who are still underinsured, and for some of those people, we can't be of much help because we can only get what the policy has. There are some cases when an agent might have made a mistake, and a policyholder can look to see if they got the square footage wrong on the house when they were doing the valuation, or they had asked for coverage and didn't get it. So there are some extenuating circumstances, but generally what you have in the policy is what you have. And there are some resources like going to FEMA and possibly filling out some FEMA forms and maybe getting some assistance beyond your underinsured payout. But essentially, it's a real good idea, if you haven't lost your home in this recent event, that you pull that policy out, dust it off, look through it, and talk to your agent. Make sure that you are properly insured. This should be a wake-up call for the people who were fortunate and this fire missed them.
Yeah, that settles a lot of the questions I had right there, too. That's good. And then I know that insurance companies, especially if they have a lot of clients in the same area that go through a disaster, are looking to defend themselves. They're a company. They're trying to not pay as much as possible. Has that become a problem where you've seen companies try to kind of undersell what they've done in a mass situation like we were having around here?
Well, sure. I mean, the insurance companies are always looking to keep down the cost of claims. Is the single biggest thing that changes the bottom line for an insurance company is claims payouts. So they're always looking to reduce their payments any way they can and also defend what they've done when they've placed the coverage.
And so let's go back to then what Greenspan AI, Adjusters International, does. How do you step into the picture then, and how can people get you involved in their claim?
So many times we're involved right from the beginning, which is really the best time to have an advocate representing you. Have your own claims team from the first part of the process all the way through. However, we get calls. We still get calls from the Tubbs fire. I mean, we get calls for years and years for people that get frustrated and try to do it on their own and eventually come asking for help. And in some of those cases, we can still be of value. And in some of the cases, it's just too late and too much has happened for us to be able to create any additional value. But the best time to get an advocate on your side is as close to the beginning of the process as possible. We can control the experts. We can insulate the insured from the insurance company so that the insurance company isn't part of what they want to do with the rest of their lives, but is focused on that insurance policy and how it should respond to payments. So to answer your question, you can get us involved at any time, but the people who get us involved in the beginning save a lot of stress, a lot of aggravation, a lot of time, and ultimately their settlement at the end will be better. Okay.
And so just to recap a little bit where we're going, we want people to start seeing their property and get their insurance adjuster to see the property and get a copy of their insurance policy. That's going to be the Bible, as you mentioned on it. It's going to be the absolute. And then start keeping some notes about what's going on with the conversations with each of the adjusters. Get you involved as soon as possible, and then keep gaining information about the process as it goes along. This could span on for years and years and years, can it?
Well, it can, and that's one of the things that we want to help people so that doesn't happen. We're very efficient in that we know exactly what the insurance company needs. We speak their language. We know how to give them the information in a timely manner, so that generally will speed up the process as opposed to trying to do it on your own and learning and trying to figure it out, so to speak. So that's part of what we do. And another thing that we do is by insulating the policyholder from the insurance company in the process, it relieves a lot of stress. They no longer have to worry about going out to the property to show the adjuster. They don't have to have conversations with all the adjuster or keep notes or document everything, because we're stepping into their shoes and doing all of that on their behalf and helping them put the inventory together of everything that was lost in the house and do a detailed evaluation of theoretically what it would take to build the house they had, because it's not about the house you want, it's about the house you had. And that often gets very muddied up when you bring a contractor in and you're talking about your new dream home, but it's really not based on the house that you had, which is how the policy responds. So having all of that taken off of people's shoulders allows them to move on with their family and move on with their own careers and doing what they need to do and still making sure that everything's done correctly with their claim.
You're like that cool group that comes in and takes care of your car because you don't know how to take care of your car, or does your taxes because you don't know how to do taxes. You're the one that's going to step in and make that happen. It must be very satisfying for you and your company to really see people find some resolve in their horrible destruction that happened in their life.
Yeah, it's really rewarding, Ted. You know, there's a lot of jobs you can do to make a living, but what we get the pleasure of doing is really helping lift people up when they're at some of their lowest points and taking that journey with them, and then being invited to the housewarming party when the house is all redone and everything's beautiful. And it's very fulfilling. It's a wonderful profession to be in. Absolutely.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So you can get in touch with us directly at our main office, which is 650-583-5600. 4300, and that's in South San Francisco, by the way. Or you can reach us online on the web at greenspan-ai.com.
Okay, sounds great. Well, I really appreciate it, Steve. Steve Severaid, the Senior Vice President and Treasurer with Greenspan Adjusters International. A big help today. Thanks so much, and thanks for spending some time with us today on Sonoma County's Talking.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.